Hello and welcome to the EdjSports Week 10 NFL Recap. I am your host, Ian O'Connor, Senior Data Analyst here at EdjSports. And joining me as always on Monday morning is Scott Brown, our VP of Data Science here at EdjSports. Now, Scott, I can't believe we're already just over a week away from Thanksgiving. We're getting into some good football. November, December is always fun. We had our first snow game of the year in Green Bay. Didn't really snow as much during the game, but still always fun to watch those cold games up at Lambeau. So how was your weekend of NFL action?
Yeah, it was good, Ian. We're definitely, as you say, into football weather that time of year to, hit the couch, turn the TV on, watch a few games, maybe crack a window if it's not too cold outside. But yeah, it was a fun weekend for me. The Bears did not lose, so that's always a good thing. Of course, they're on bye. Minor detail there, but yeah,
Lions and Steelers didn't lose, but for a different reason.
Yeah, that's right. First tie of the NFL season. But yeah, it was a good weekend of action.
Awesome. Well, before we get started here with you all, as always, just want to remind you to subscribe to our shows on any podcast platform. Ask for or give us a 5-star review. Really help us grow our audience and get this analysis out to even more people. And we are available on any podcast platform of choice, whatever your preference. Also, don't forget about our all-new site and experience at edjsports.com. It's edjsports.com. We also have an app now that is available for both iOS and Android. That is EdjSports, where you can see all of the top fives that we're going to go through here this morning, as well as NFL betting insights, pregame betting insights, as well as the ability to track bets and see the odds of those bets hitting in real time during the games. And then coming up on Wednesday, we'll have an update to our coach rankings, which we debuted last week. Our Champion Gaming brand ambassador, Katie George, will be with us again on Wednesday, and every Wednesday, she and I will be going over updates for the coach rankings and looking at some different decisions and different movement among the coaches from this past week. So again, welcome, Scott. We're gonna kind of dive right into this here for our Week 10 recap. So starting the most recent game, Sunday Night Football between the Chiefs and Raiders. So the Chiefs showed up big time, dominated the Raiders. The first half seemed like they should have been up a lot more than they actually were. And then the Raiders made it a game again at 17-14 with an opening drive touchdown in the second half. But then the Chiefs just kind of put it all together against the Raiders team that, despite their record really as far as DVOA goes, hasn't been as good as what their record has shown. A lot of people will say Mahomes and the Chiefs are back, but Andy Reid's play calling was really underrated here, especially when it comes to some fourth down decisions, which we'll get to. Now, Andy Reid was only 23rd in our EdjSports coach rankings after Week 9. His critical call index was only 20, and what that looks at is fourth down decisions, whether or not you make the right decision and how much you increase or decrease your team's win probability on those fourth down decisions. And then it weighs equally our edge power index, which looks at how teams have performed to date so far, where he was at only 22nd. So that kind of indirectly accounts for motivation and scheme and play calling. It's a lot harder analytically to judge a coach based on first, second, and third because we don't know their playbooks, right, Scott? We just kind of look at what they do and how well they perform. But overall, coming in at 23rd overall, 2 of his calls made our top 5 decisions of the week. First one came in the second quarter, 2 minutes left, right at the 2-minute warning, 4th and 1 at the Raiders 3. Chose to go for it with a 3-point lead, which added 4.8% in pre-snap win probability. The next one came in the third quarter with 7:14 left, 4th and goal at the 1. Went for it leading 17-14 and added 4.4. So about 9.2% in pre-snap win probability added between those 2 calls, the 4th and 5th best calls of the week. So, Scott, what did you think about Andy Reid kind of coming out? He'd been kind of hit or miss this year, but having a really good game last night.
Yeah, he came through in a big way. The Chiefs came through in a big way against a division opponent in the Raiders. Both of those teams, 5-win teams heading into this matchup. Not something maybe that you would have expected at the beginning of the season for those, teams to be on equal footing. But, the Chiefs have been so dominant in years past, right? I think we are all still sort of a little bit bewildered by their performance to this point. But they moved to 6-4 with this win. Behind Andy Reid's very, very good play calling here on these 2 4th and goal situations. So the first one came up with 2 minutes in the second quarter, and the Chiefs had 4th and 1 from the 3. Andy Reid makes the right, a slam dunk right call here to go for it. And then, they were, I guess other notable aspects of this decision is that they were leading at the time. So, not letting that kind of the take the points idea come into play here and just playing it safe. You definitely, if you're the Chiefs with that high-powered offense, you definitely want to be pushing your edge from the go, right? Like just from the jump, every opportunity, maximize it. And so they did the right thing here, wound up picking up the first down, so it worked out. And then they faced another one later on in the third quarter. Did you want to talk about that one at all?
Yeah, no, just one more note on that first one too. With 2 minutes left, I think they had all three of their timeouts. If this would have been down inside 30 seconds, I would think that we probably would have favored the field goal, as we've seen quite often in some other games, because the field position that you gain by not getting it is kind of a moot point there when you get down so low, because you're coming up on the half anyway. But with the time left there, 2 minutes left, was a great call.
Yeah, fair point. You're right that as we always say in these things, that there's some leftover value to even when you go for it and don't succeed. The subsequent possession backs your opponent way up, so there are good things that can come from that, right? You can quickly turn over possession and get the ball in good field position for your next drive, or you can even get a safety, right? Put points on the board and get the ball back. So there are definitely some good things that come from it. I think as well, usually this is something that is harder to capture, but we oftentimes see teams necessarily have to be more passive when they're backed up in their own territory by typically just like smashing the ball in the middle of the line of scrimmage for a couple plays to get some space, and then maybe they find themselves on 3rd and long and quickly don't really go anywhere with that possession. So yeah, you bring up a very good point there that with 2 minutes left in the fourth, we're still in that territory with time remaining where you get the benefit from you really get all of the benefit from going for it here.
Yeah, and then that second one we talked about, or just mentioned a minute ago, was up 3 right after the Raiders had scored coming out of halftime to make it a 17-14 game. And Mahomes ended up finding the third tight end, Noah Gray, in the end zone for the touchdown on this one. Travis Kelce, I don't think he got a touchdown last night. I actually don't remember. There were so many of them. But Noah Gray, he still had a big game nonetheless. Travis Kelce has just dominated the Raiders over the last years. I think they said he's got the most receiving yards by either a tight end or a player against one opponent in the last 5 or 6 years. So now on the flip side of this is a decision that's not going to show up in any of our top decisions. But it was a bad one. Looking at Bisaccia there for the Raiders, only 11 or just under 12 minutes left in the game. They're down 20. 4th and 5 at their own 37. That's not unreasonable. 4th and medium-ish, but you're down 20 with that much time or that little time left. Chose to punt, pretty much waving the white flag, as I said in our reporting earlier.
Yeah.
Kind of put it there. Dropped them from 1%, very slim, down to an even slimmer 0.6%, 40% relative drop, like almost giving up half of your chance to win on that one decision. So just kind of head scratcher there. If he was trying to lose by less, it didn't work because the Chiefs went down and scored another touchdown to win by 27.
Yeah, I think trying to lose by less is definitely a thing. Even if the coaches wouldn't tell you in a press conference, I think it's definitely a thing. And I think we case in point right there on that decision, as you so aptly pointed out.
Yeah, so that kind of does it for that game. There were a few decisions. We'll come back. We won't cover those too much when we get down to our best decision. But moving on to another, I don't know if you could call it exciting game for traditional reasons, but Scott, did you know that you could tie in the NFL? There was only one overtime?
I did know, Ian. I've seen the tie, actually. I remember the original version of this kind of what's the word that we should use here? Head-scratching comments in the postgame from Donovan McNabb.
Yep. We watched that video earlier this morning, actually.
Yeah. So, you can tie in an NFL regular season football game. The rules are a bit different in the playoffs, so but we're not there yet. But yes, I did know. And apparently there were some members, I think, of the Steelers that did not.
Steelers and the Lions. I saw there, I think it was a second-year running back, which is just, aside from, the stuff we're going to cover data-wise, it's just always a head-scratcher to me that these guys, grow up playing football. You play in college. I assume they watch NFL. There have been a handful of ties over the last 2, 3, 4 years that they would know that. So, like you said, a kind of head-scratching comment. It's just always a shock to me that those guys don't know that you can tie, or they just want to pretend they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lack of professionalism maybe. I can sort of see it the other way too. I mean, they're all these guys playing football in college, which has its own set of overtime rules, right?
Which are much better, I think.
Where you can't tie. So, But yeah, maybe the head official after the coin flip needs to remind everybody that, hey, like if you guys run through the entire period and the score's tied at the end, it's a tie. Seems pretty silly, right? But geez, I guess whenever you see these post-game comments, it's always kind of bewildering. But I guess we can kind of move on from that.
Yep.
You know, another notable aspect in this game is that there was no Big Ben. He was out due to COVID safety protocols, that definitely, I think, dampered Pittsburgh's chances. Otherwise, they would have been, I think, they were already a pretty significant favorite heading into this one with Big Ben, and then, I should say that they maintained, their position as favorite even without him. But wound up not being able to pull it out here against the Lions. Do you want to talk about the two head coaches in this matchup?
Yeah, so early in the game, Dan Campbell added just another good call he's been doing all year. Trying to keep the Lions in it as best as he can. Came in 25th in coach rankings, but he was 13th in the critical call index, the CCI I mentioned earlier, that judges coaches based on their fourth down decision making. So not really, doing too bad in that department. This week he had the third best call of the week with 2:05 left in the second quarter. 4th and 1 on the Pittsburgh 45, right across midfield. Chose to go for it. They were down 10-7. This added 5% in win probability. They were able to pick up the first down. DeAndre Swift got 10 yards on that play. He actually had another one that doesn't show up. It was a good one in his own territory later on. It was 4th and 1 at their own 34 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So this is a position where you don't get it. The Steelers are already in long field goal range, which is not out of Chris Boswell's range. If not, a chance to go on, score a touchdown to win. And he chose to go for it. They got 2 yards. Were able to get it. That was 3.4% and came in at 7th. So 2 of the top 7 there for Dan Campbell, who just kind of keeps on keeping on, for lack of a better phrase there. And then Mike Tomlin, on the other hand, continued to really struggle on fourth downs. And we got hammered for him in our coach rankings for being so low. And people coming at us saying, he's got a Super Bowl and he's one of the best coaches in his career. It's like, we're not looking at the career, just so you all know when we're mentioning these ranks. This is just based on 2021. And we, like I said in the beginning, we equally weight fourth down decision making and their team performance to date, which, people have kind of questioned us on. But part of that is because that's what we do, win probability analysis, and fourth downs are very important. They can and often do contribute to wins and losses, as we'll see in some of our best and worst decisions here later on. But also, like I mentioned, I don't know if you have any other comments on it, just it's harder. The fourth downs are one thing where you can quantify it because it's based on a decision. There's either a go or a kick.
Right.
Whereas first down, second down, third down, it's, all right, do you pass? Do you run? Is it a short pass? And it comes down to the players, I think, more than it does the coach.
Yeah, no one's taking anything away from Mike Tomlin's career. He's obviously had a lot of success, done a lot of great things in the NFL. So definitely want to clear that up. All we're trying to do with these coach rankings, though, is look at recent decisions, right, recent performance in as objective a way as possible, and really grade them, just based on those decisions. And I think, we stand by the criticism that we levy against these guys when they're not making good decisions, and that's really it. If you have a bone to pick with that, then I think really you should maybe revisit some of those play calls, and we see this week in, week out, where we have just absolute slam dunk fourth down go decisions that should be made that are, punts or field goals or what have you. And it just happens over and over and over again. Now, I think broadly speaking, the NFL has gotten a lot, the coaches in the NFL have gotten a lot better. And I think we're really seeing that this season. But, every week we still see these things come up time and time again. And, there was one real big whopper we'll get to later on in the show this week from a coach that's had a long tenure in the NFL. And,
very good tenure as well.
Yeah, another coach with Super Bowl success and constantly producing one of the best units in the league. But still, we're gonna look at all of his decisions objectively and say, you know what, that was a really bad decision.
Yep.
And so that's sort of the spirit of where we're coming from. Not necessarily to take anything away from these coaches with regard to their success or their career.
Yeah, so not necessarily head coach rankings in your traditional sense of, we said, judging on scheme and building a team and that kind of stuff. But still, that's right here, right now in the current, right? That's all we're focused on. Absolutely. And so back to Mike Tomlin, who had a little bit of a segue there. I just want to kind of explain some of that. But he had a decision that was also, a head scratcher here. Fourth quarter, 4.5 minutes left. They're still tied at 16. 4th and 3 on their own 48, so just shy of midfield. So we saw Dan Campbell go for it from his own 34. Mike Tomlin decides to punt on 4th and short, shy of midfield, costing them 4.7% on the win probability. And then on the next possession, he punted again for the 6th worth decision, falling just outside the top 5. So we've seen this from Tomlin week in and week out. He had a big one last week. Had a couple good ones that were on 4th and 1, but when it came down to it, didn't make the right call last week or this week. He got bailed out last week.
You know, I want to say I wonder what they would have done if they had Roethlisberger under center, but I sort of think that this probably would be the same result.
They would if they were even in the situation.
Yeah,
to be fair.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, all things equal if Roethlisberger was there.
Yeah, it just sort of feels that this season, this has been kind of the MO of Tomlin when these 4th and shorts come up. And yeah, we would have liked to see him go for it here, 4th and 3 from the 48. So you're at that point in the field, where you're not really going to get the full benefit from changing the field position by punting. So yeah, going for it here is the right move, I think, as well. In a close game, offense, usually good offense beats good defense in the NFL. That's true more so for when you have elite quarterbacks, but even so, when you just sort of get to a point where the conversion rates are so high that going for it here with a high likelihood of conversion, continues the possession. You get to run more plays, bleed the clock down, and then obviously the ideal scenario is you wind up with a nice makeable field goal to break the tie close to the end of the game. So. Yeah, that's not how this one played out. They decided to punt, and we think it was worth about 4.7% win probability lost there for the Steelers. Yeah,
and then after this, we went to overtime, and things got pretty crazy. Kind of a comedy of errors in this game. And, we had 3 of the top 5 most impactful plays of the week in this game in overtime alone. I think what we said, they had 11 of the top 20 most impactful plays total in this game, which is almost, an unheard of number for one game. A lot of games were blowouts this week. That's part of it. But still, to have over half of the top 20 most impactful plays is just, I guess, crazy is kind of the only way to put it. So starting the first one, we'll do these in chronological order. Just under 7 minutes left. 2nd and 8 on the Pittsburgh 19. Mason Rudolph hits Deontay Johnson down the right side for a big completion, I think about 20 yards. Kind of cutting back, trying to make something happen, and fumbles. Detroit recovers, costing the Steelers 24.8% win probability. Then just a little less than 3 minutes later, we've got the Lions set up at 4th and 6 on the Pittsburgh 30. Ryan Santoso, who I'll be honest, didn't even know he was there. He was the kicker for the Lions. Looks like he's been in the league for a few years, but has been bounced around, was in the Canadian League for a while. Misses the game-winning field goal attempt. That's a 52% drop in win probability. And we do I might not have known it was Ryan Santoso, but I know, Scott, you and our model does account for the fact that it knew that Ryan Santoso was the kicker.
It does, and to be fair, there's only so much information we have on Ryan Santoso, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to make some assumptions. But yeah, you're certainly right. We do take into account kickers across the NFL. For instance, if we have Justin Tucker attempting this kick, we're going to have it be much more likely to go through the uprights than someone like Ryan Santoso. But I'm not, without having looked at it before the show, I'm not exactly sure how many kicks we have. But it's such a fresh new name to me that I imagine it's only a handful at most.
Yep. Pro Football Reference has him with 5 field goal attempts total this season now between Carolina and Detroit. He had 17 kickoffs with Tennessee in 2019, but no field goal attempts. So it looks like for a career he has 5 total attempts, and that was his first miss.
Oh, really? Okay, gotcha.
I think this is updated through this week. I could be wrong, but
okay, yeah. And it seems like this season's been especially kicker carousel ish in the NFL, where it's just you have guys coming in and out, playing on different teams.
Dustin Hopkins, one of them.
Yeah.
Joey Sly as well.
Yeah, it's just like musical chairs around the NFL for NFL place kicking, but. Yeah, this was just a super high leverage moment, right? Where you have what should be a very makeable field goal for an NFL quality NFL quality kicker, and to basically have that opportunity to just end the game on that kick and then to miss it is understandably going to be a hugely impactful swingy play, and it tops our list this week.
Yeah, the weather was a little bad. It looked like it got blocked too, but it looked like he just on the replay. It looked like he just didn't get it well at all.
Didn't strike
so,
it well.
like you said, that ends up being the most impactful play of the week, as you just mentioned. And then the last one, well, not the last one. The last one of it that's in the top 5 came with a minute and a half later, 3:30 left in overtime. 2nd and 6 on their own 42. Pittsburgh's got the ball. The snap goes over Mason Rudolph's head. Najee Harris recovers it. Excuse me. They lose 19 yards. Have a 3rd and very long, don't recover, end up having to punt. Cost them 28.8% on that loss there as they were kind of nearing midfield, having a chance to go down and get a first down. If not, keep going and get a field goal. That was number 4. And then coming in at number 7 outside the top 5 is how the game would end, basically. The Pat Freiermuth fumble as just before time expired. I think the Lions got the ball and maybe just knelt it out or had straight through it. I don't remember exactly the end of that, but just a few seconds left, 8 seconds left maybe, when he caught a pass and fumbled. That one dropped them 19.6%, again at number 7. So just crazy finish to that one. Really not much else to say from that game. We there's a lot more we could cover, a lot of those plays in the top 20, but these are kind of obviously the biggest ones here within the top 7. Coming in overtime.
Yeah, they snatched a tie from the jaws of defeat over and over and over again. Kind of didn't seem like either team really, I hate to say wanted it. I'm sure they wanted it, but neither team really deserved it. And it was just, a comedy of errors down the stretch where each team seemingly, had momentum at their back and a good opportunity to really capitalize and take the win, and just error after error after error. So yeah, this one was pretty wild for a 16-16 game between two kind of I guess blue collar would be the term organizations in the NFL. So but it definitely was one that stood out this week.
Yeah, so won't spend any further time on that. We'll wrap that up, put a bow on it. We'll move on to one a little bit more exciting for some better play, at least, but maybe not so much decision-making. Saints versus Titans came down to the wire. There was a huge error by Sean Payton that left pretty much everyone scratching their heads from what I could see. He actually came in 4th in our EdjSports head coach rankings, is typically near the top of the list in our coach rankings and known as one of the more analytical coaches in the league. But this decision he made was just – it made pretty much no sense. I know you and I were talking before, and you said you kept trying to make it make sense. Maybe say it's not so bad. Maybe he was thinking this, but I don't think it really. We both kind of agreed. There's really not much to say here. The 4th and goal at the 1. I'll set the situation and let you kind of take it away. 4th quarter, 5.5 minutes left. They're down 11. 4th and goal on the 1, where we said last week didn't think coaches kick field goals here unless it's the end of a first half. We did see Houston do it down 11 last week as well, but that was with 12 minutes left, or 11 and a half. Kicked the field goal to make it an 8-point game. Cost them 7.4%, which I think was like 75% of what they had. They were like around 12 and a half, 12.8, something like that. Dropped them down quite a bit. So they got the points. They made it 8. They did end up getting a touchdown, a 2-point conversion to try and tie it. But why is this such a bad decision?
Yeah, what a head scratcher. So we'll get into why this is such a bad decision in just a second. I want to start from my own perspective why this is so weird to see from Sean Payton. So Sean Payton has, a history dating back many, many seasons of going for it in these situations. He was, I think, really on the frontier of being aggressive, in particular on 4th and goal type situations. I feel like I've seen him, just so many times over the years keep the offense on the field here and, oftentimes calling kind of smash mouth run plays to try to punch it in. But yeah, just, so many times I think in the Drew Brees era just to see him keep the offense on the field and really go for it. So, something you should know about me, Ian, is that I like to play devil's advocate. And so when I saw this, I first tried to think of, well, why would he change his mind? Why would he go off brand?
Especially a guy that smart that you think, okay, there has to be more to it.
Yeah. Why would he do that? And obviously the Saints the Saints offense is a very different unit this year. Their defense kind of in continuation of the unit from last year is very, very strong. So I was trying to convince myself, the quarterback situation's really up in the air this year. They were without Alvin Kamara this game. Michael Thomas hasn't been around all season. So, the unit, the kind of the skill position quality of the unit has definitely dropped. So maybe I was trying to convince myself that, okay, well, let's put more of the onus on the defense to come through for me here in this spot. And I kind of sat with that for a second, and then I came to the conclusion, no, this still just really does not make any sense, and here's why. So
even had Mark Ingram back his first week back
right.
after getting him, but as a guy that we know can run the ball, big guy that can get in the end zone.
Yeah, right. So even if you didn't feel great about your pass game here, your short yardage passing game here, just turn around and give it to Ingram. It can't be that bad, right? This really does not make any sense. There's 5.5 minutes left in the game. They're down 11, right? Which is a weird crooked number, but you go for it here because if you don't convert here, it's actually not so bad because there's time left. You're going to reap that residual value from your opponent being backed up, the Titans being way backed up on their next possession. So you're going to get the ball back. So you're very likely to get the ball back. So that's sort of, I guess, setting kind of the worst case scenario of you go for it and don't make it. Obviously, you go for it and convert. You can go for 2 there and make it a 3-point game. So that's important. That's big. But if you kick the field goal now, right? So if you just kick the field goal now, which is what they did, you're going to have to score another touchdown at least. That's assuming that things go swimmingly. They go as well as they can go. The Titans don't put up any more points up on the board, and you're going to have to get the ball back, so force a turnover or, change of possession, get the ball back, go down the field, score a touchdown, and then have to convert a 2, which is going to be harder than this 4th and goal from the 1.
Yep.
So it just really doesn't make much sense. And once again, that's under ideal circumstances, which is actually what played out in this game. So, even in spite of all that, they weren't able to pull out the victory, not to play results too hard. But yeah, this was really, really just not a good decision. I think it's an absolute slam dunk to go for it here on 4th and goal from the 1. You have a variety of things that you can call, even if you don't feel great about your short game passing offense, just turn around and hand it to Ingram. It really just does not make a lot of sense to me. And I think I'm not alone in that sentiment. Kind of seems like this one was the one that really stood out this week, and especially came from a weird place, right? Because I think Sean Payton in general has been really sharp and really good in these spots, and he was early as well. So to see him sort of kind of reverse course in these in this sort of moment, just really, really confused and bewildered, a little bit disappointed in him. Hopefully he's able to, I think, assess this in post game and hopefully going forward can correct it and find the right play call in a similar situation should it come up the rest of the way.
Yeah, and you mentioned that number 11 being kind of an odd one where they're down 11. Well, they were down 11 because the kicker, Brian Johnson, I think it was, missed an extra point earlier. So, looking at this, even, if he had made that extra point and they were looking at 13-23, they're only down 10. The error is a little bit smaller, but it's still a 6% error when you're looking at 15 versus 9. So the numbers are very similar, even if they are only down 10 instead of 11. So, it has a little bit of an effect, but really not enough where no matter what, you're down 2 scores, you're on the 1-yard line. The chances of getting down that close again, it's going to be tougher to do. You're already there. Yeah. Yes, you have one play. I mentioned they ended up getting the ball back. They did get a 2-point conversion attempt. Had a false start where they didn't get it, but still, You've got that 1 yard. It's a much better chance to score there than to have to drive the field and score.
Yeah, exactly. And the another aspect of this is the information, right? So if you kick a field goal, which is what they did, you're sort of denying yourself information on your next possession that you would like to have, or you're sort of assuming something about your next possession that may not be true, which is, the Titans haven't put any more points on the board, right? So if you kick a field goal here, give the Titans the ball back and say they're able to get down the field quickly, but then you stop them, but they kick a field goal, right? Then your chances to win this game have just really been incinerated because now there might only be 2 minutes left and you need 11 points, right? So now things are going to have to come down to an onside kick, which is super low probability. So going for it here for the touchdown really maintains and sets you up giving you the best chance to win across a variety of futures that could play out, and not just the one that actually did in the game yesterday. But suppose the Titans, who are quite an excellent offense, are able to kick a field goal, get down the field, kick a field goal. That pretty much ends the game, right? Yep. So it really was just from a variety of angles, not the right decision.
Yeah, and if you do go for it, you mentioned you miss it, they're backed up. But if you go for it and you get the touchdown but don't get the 2-point conversion, it's still 5 points. If you are able to, they do score a field goal, it's still 8. You still have a chance to tie with a touchdown and 2-point conversion. So,
yeah, good point.
Like we said, we've kind of done it a lot of different ways, but come to outline it, but come to the same conclusion as we know that going for it is the right call, and just very surprising to see it be Sean Payton make that decision. So moving on from the biggest storylines and the biggest games now, we're going to talk about our top 5 most impactful plays. We have already covered 3 of these, so we'll go pretty quickly through these. Number 5 was the Steelers-Lions in overtime. The fumble by Deontay Johnson on the completion up around midfield cost the Steelers 24.8%. The next one was the Steelers, the snap that went over Mason Rudolph's head cost them 28.8%. Number 3 here is the Broncos. This play will come up later on as well, more so for the decision. It was the 4th and 1 at the Philly 23. They were down 7. Vic Fangio makes the correct decision to go for it. We're just going to look at the outcome here since we're just talking impactful and win probability swings. Melvin Gordon fumbles, picked up by Darius Slay, who has an awesome return, kind of runs around for a while, gets to the sideline, looks like he's about to get tackled. Teddy Bridgewater kind of makes a half effort to tackle him and knocks his own guy, kind of keeps his own guy from making a tackle, and Slay takes it for the touchdown. Cost the Broncos 29.3%, and essentially the game, there was still the 4th quarter left, but that put them down 14 in a game they really weren't doing a whole lot. Number 2 is the Jaguars and Colts. Jaguars have a chance in this one. They were down, Colts didn't get as much going as I thought. It was 20-9 for a lot of the game, I think. Jaguars were able to make it 20-17. At this point, it was 23-17 Colts. We'll get to that decision as well and how the Colts got from 20 to 23. But this one, Trevor Lawrence, 1st and 10 at the Indy 46. Just over a minute left with a kind of driving down, desperation to score a touchdown, an extra point to win, but gets sacked and fumbles, recovered by Indianapolis, and essentially losing the game for Jacksonville, costing them 32.3%. And then the number 1 was the missed field goal for the Lions at 52%. Scott, either of those 2 from Jacksonville and Denver that you wanted to say anything more about, or maybe anything else from that game that you noticed? We didn't cover those at the top.
Yeah, I would just say it's good to see the Jags showing some signs of life here. This is, I guess dating back to last week, they were able to pull out a huge upset against the Buffalo Bills, and then this week they were competitive against the Colts. I think as far as the rest of their performances so far this season, they don't find themselves with a chance to win the game with a minute left in the 4th quarter very often. Nope. So, there was that London game where they were able to pull off kind of a miraculous play with 4 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever it was, to win that one. And, I think Trevor Lawrence has definitely struggled so far this season in his rookie campaign. And unfortunately, this was, I think, more of the same on this impactful play. But I guess credit to the Jags, to Urban Meyer for remaining competitive, right? Still playing to win, even though it kind of looks like this season's not much. There's not much to come for the Jags. And once again, the Colts really, I think, fortunate here that their defense came through with a big play. They've definitely been involved in some funky games down the stretch, some interesting games down the stretch featuring turnovers and all sorts of things. They've been in an overtime game within the past couple of weeks. So, but yeah. I think really the one that stands out this week, as we covered in the intro, is the Steelers-Lions. Just all over the place, all sorts of crazy plays, and we talked about those at length. So yeah, I think we can kind of wrap that one up and leave it.
Yep. So that was the top 5 most impactful plays. We're going to move on to the best decisions of the week so far. Just to remind you again that we are available on your podcast platform of choice. Don't forget to rate us, review us, subscribe to all of the EdjSports shows. We're also available or can be found on our YouTube channel as well. That's where our coach rankings will be found every Wednesday, as well as all of our game day matchups on YouTube. It's EdjSports, EDJ Sports. So now that we've got the impactful plays out of the way, we're going to move into some decisions, starting with our top 5. If you're new with us, these are the plays that had the biggest impact on the game in terms of pre-snap win probability that is positive. So coaches increasing their team's win probability at the point of decision by choosing to go for it instead of kicking a field goal or punting. So basically the bottom 3 through 5, we already covered. So we'll move quickly through these as well. Number 5 and number 4 were both Andy Reid. The 4th and goal at the 1 was a 6.7% increase. The 4th and 1 at the 3 was a 4.4% was the 4th and goal. 4.8 was the 4th and 1. And then the Lions, Dan Campbell, 4th and 1 at the Pittsburgh 45 was worth 5% in pre-snap win probability. Number 2 is our friend Mike Zimmer, who since the week that he just had a bad week and we hammered him, he has been actually very good since then. Hasn't had a ton of big errors. Has actually had some really good 4th down goes. He had 2 in this game. One of them was a 4th and goal at the 1 that they went for it to take a lead. They were down 4 at the time. Chose to go for it. They converted and got the touchdown. That was number 11. Or no, sorry, not 11. That one was a little bit further down the list. I don't think that was in the top 20. It was smaller. But this one was – this is the 4th and goal at the 1. I was looking at a different list. 4th and goal at the 1, third quarter, 2:40 left. They're down 4 instead of kicking a field goal with a lot of time left to make it a 1-point game. He chose to go for it. It's a 5.7% increase in win probability. They scored and really never looked back after that.
Yes, there you go, Mike Zimmer. Way to go. Way to, I think, right the ship right after those early season struggles. Once again, 4th and goal from the 1. It seemed like a lot of these really came up this week. There was the 2 in that Chiefs-Raiders game. And, I think another one, another bad one, obviously, that we just spoke about a moment ago from Sean Payton. But, yeah, Mike Zimmer finds the right call here. And, this one is just really a slam dunk, right? 4th and goal from the 1. Probably the theme of the week. You can go for it. There are a lot of ways when you go for it, there are a lot of ways that this one can work in your favor, even if you don't immediately score the touchdown. It really leaves you with value, right, to be reaped on the next possession. And but obviously, 4th and goal from the 1, you're going to convert it. It's so high leverage, you're going to convert it a good chunk of the time, and it's that getting that 7 points is crucial, right? It's the best thing you can do in football. So just sort of a slam dunk, but definitely want to give Zimmer a pat on the back. Definitely, in my mind, can be an unusual suspect to this list, for the best decisions. But here he has proven me wrong, and I think it's a nice little segue over to our the next decision we're going to talk about for another unusual suspect.
Yeah, and just a note on Zimmer too. He was 29th in our CCI, which is the critical call index, the 4th down decision making coming into this week. Wouldn't be surprised to see him move up a little bit there after this week, because another decision he had that isn't going to make the list was that one at the end of the game, the 4th and 2 at the Chargers 36, I believe it was. Chose to go for it. He could have kicked a field goal to go up 10, to potentially go up 10. It would have been a long field goal, about 54 yards. We know how the Vikings do with field goals late in the game as well, so no
right.
No guarantee there. But kicking a field goal, either way, you give the ball back to Los Angeles, either down 7, down 10 on a make or miss. He chose to go for it. And the Chargers were out of timeouts and knew if he gets the first down, the game's over. That's what he did.
Oh, nice.
It was only 1.4% between the two. They were over 92% either way. But still, making the right call there. It backfired on him last year against Seattle. But this year made the right call, trusted his offense, and got the job done. So a couple of good ones for Mike Zimmer this week. And then, Scott, as you mentioned, number 1 moving into Vic Fangio. Down 7 against the Eagles. That's that impactful play we talked about just at the end of the third quarter. Choosing to go for it was the right call, and Melvin Gordon picked up the first down. It was a 6% pre-snap increase in win probability. Got the first down and then fumbled before going down, and just that play by Slay to take it back. But the decision itself was correct, by our model at least, a 6% difference in win probability. So just a whole, one of the worst outcomes you could possibly imagine.
The worst outcome. Give up a touchdown. Horrendous outcome. Won't play it. The result too hard. But this is the right call. Even and we like to say independent of the result, right? This is the right call. Most of the time, over 99% of the time, Melvin Gordon just gets tackled after he picks up the first down, and everything works out swimmingly. But right now, I'm sure it doesn't feel good. There's no solace in what actually happened. But I would say, Vic Fangio, props to you. You made the right call here. It didn't work out. But when you have 4th and 1, even if it's just kind of towards the end of the third quarter, it's usually going to be the right thing to go for it. It would have been about a 40-ish yard field goal otherwise, but I think to really capitalize, make the most out of the situation, like you should be going for it. You're down 7, so field goals, at some point, and I think we've reached that point in this game, like the field goals only do you so good because you're not going to have a whole bunch of possessions left, right? Like when you're down 7. If you're just counting on field goals to get back in it, that's 3 possessions, right? If you include the current one in order to take the lead, and that's assuming that the Eagles don't do anything with their possessions. So, yeah, going for it here, it's definitely the right time to be doing it, and good to see Fangio, who I called an unusual suspect, proving me wrong and taking the top spot this week on our best 4th down go list. So
yeah, and that unusual suspect naming there kind of isn't necessarily wrong, just because a couple notes from this one, even though he got it right there. Kicked a field goal on 4th and goal from the 3 earlier in the game.
Yeah.
Had a field goal blocked on 4th and goal from the 4. Then kicked a field goal on, this one's not as bad, but 4th and 9 from the Philly 10 while they were down 10. So to get them within 3 to get to this point. But a lot of short field goals. The 4th and 9, isn't as, big of an error. But those other ones, I think, were around 2.5% and 3% each. So, made the one good call that gets them to the top, but overall, throughout the rest of the game, it kind of cost them. So, oh well, he made the list. He's at the top. Yeah. We got to give it to him.
I should temper my encouragement, is what you're saying.
But no, you were definitely right. Calling an unusual suspect on the best decisions list. So, now that those are out of the way, I'm going to move on to the top 5 worst decisions. One of these, the top we've already covered, so when we get there, we won't talk too much. But before getting and starting with number 5, just want to remind you all one more time about our new site at EdjSports.com and our app, EdjSports, that's available for both iOS and Android. You can get NFL news, pregame betting analysis. You can see our full distributions for the spread and total, along with kind of our analysis or our fair value spreads and totals, which is where we think the lines basically should be, all available for free on EdjSports.com and on the EdjSports app. So now into the top 5 worst decisions. Number 5, we also covered at the top of the show, the Steelers and Lions. It was Mike Tomlin, 4th and 3 at their own 48, cost them 4.7% in pre-snap win probability. The number 4, Bruce Arians, a guy that, not really a surprise to see him here. He had a good one earlier in the game on his own, I think like his own 34, had Brady sneak it and pick up the first down. This time, down 10 early in the third quarter, 4th and 2 at their own 46, so coming up on midfield, chooses to punt, 4.8% error. Not really too surprising from Arians from what we know, but he's just hit or miss. It's always kind of hard to tell what he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're at midfield, so once again, beat the dead horse. You're not necessarily going to get the full advantage of swinging field position when you bring the punting unit on. And you're the Bucs. I mean, this one was definitely a surprise outcome, surprise upset this week. But as the Bucs, you sit here down 10, with half the game already over. If not now, when, right? A 4th and 2 is a very, very convertible 4th down.
Especially for that offense.
Especially for that offense, exactly. So, the question that just pops into my mind is, if not now, when? You might not get, an opportunity like this over the course of the rest of the game to really have an impact as a head coach and really kind of, set the table for your team, depending on how things play out. So this is, punting the ball here is just a disaster. Going for it is really the right move, and unfortunately, Arians, doesn't find the right play call, and his Bucs fall this week to a surprise, in a surprising fashion to the Washington football team.
Coming out of the bye as well, both teams came out of their bye, but for Tampa Bay, coming out of the bye last year, they kind of set the world on fire, and that's when they went on to win the Super Bowl.
But history,
yeah, this year really struggled. Brady had 2 interceptions, almost 3. So a rough day all around for the Bucs, and then rough day for another team here, Seahawks. I think they were the only team to get shut out, if I have that correctly, the first time they've been shut out in like 10 years, the first time Russell Wilson has ever been shut out in his career. So just a really bad game all around for Seattle. You know, it was because the defense played pretty well the first half, or really most of the game. I should say the defense really wasn't terrible. Ended up holding the Packers to, I think, 16 points it was, or 17 points, 17-0, or 20-0 was the final. But Pete Carroll up to his usual ways. Yeah, this one. So one that won't show up, he had the 4th and 4 at the Green Bay 45 late in the first quarter. That cost him. That was number 7 overall, so not going to be in this top 5. But that was a 4.1% error as far as pre-snap win probability. This one, number 3, was on their opening drive after Green Bay punted, 4th and 1 at the Seattle 41. So this is similar to that Tampa Bay one. You know, it's still tied at 0, no score. It's cost him 5.3% in pre-snap win probability, and it's Pete Carroll. You know, no surprise. Now Carroll came into this week 30th. So only 2 coaches are worse than him on 4th downs, and 24th overall with their EPI rank kind of pulling them up a little bit. But Pete Carroll's a guy that just, it seems like will never change his mind.
Yeah, and I guess probably from his perspective, he thinks it's too early or something, you know, since it's the first quarter in a tie game. But yeah, you got Russell Wilson back, like put him to work, right? 4th and 1, you just got to have it, right? You in a game where you're the dog, you gotta seek the variance, right? And so the best way to do so, the easiest way to do so, is to be aggressive on 4th down. You know, really, you should be trying to maximize all of these decisions when you find yourself as the underdog, especially on the road. And yeah, I mean, Pete, I guess I don't find this surprising, but it makes it no less. That doesn't say or take anything away from just how bad it is to be punting here. So, yep, you know, I know it's 0-0. I know it's sort of early first quarter, but it's a 4th and 1 with a really, really strong offense on most Sundays. Maybe not this one. With Russell Wilson under center, and you have excellent wide receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, which can open things up for your running game. But and another thing to add too is who's on the other sideline, right? So Aaron Rodgers and that great Green Bay offense. You know, do everything you can to deny them possession for as long as you possibly can, and also, you know, don't make it easy on them. You know, you need to be maximizing the points you're putting up on the board, over, you know, thinking long term over this game, because anytime you give them the ball, you just sort of have to assume that they're going to be going down the field, you know, on the subsequent possession, because they're just that good. So this is just a bad one for all the classic reasons, and you know, unfortunately for Pete Carroll's sake, I can't say I'm necessarily surprised, but like I mentioned, it's still a bad one.
Even Seahawks fans are not surprised, and see a lot of frustration coming from them when I'm on Twitter during these games, kind of running through everything. They're not happy with his 4th down play calling. So that was number 3. Again, Seahawks minus 5.3. Number 2 was the Colts, mentioned just a minute ago. We'll get to Frank Reich, kind of surprising with him. They were up 3, 2:26 left, 4th and 7 at the Jacksonville 19. They chose to kick the field goal that cost them 6.3%. They made it, but this is one of those we covered last week, so we probably won't go too deep into this. You're up 3, taking a 1-score game to a 1-score game to go up 6.
Right.
Yes, it's the Jaguars. You know, forcing them to score a touchdown is going to be tougher, especially with that really good Colts defense, who they've actually been really a lot better against the run at number 2 overall, I think, than against the pass, where they're around 20th. But I mean, it's 4th and 7 too. I mean, this one is one of those that maybe, you know, you and I, we could talk through this and maybe say, you know what, I could see the case for kicking the field goal based on the distance, the opponent, your team, your defense, that type of stuff. These are fully adjusted, so we are accounting for all that stuff.
Yeah.
The model still comes out at a 6.3% error, but just kind of that classic, like I said, going from 3 to 6, a touchdown still beats you either way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And you make them a little bit more aggressive, like we've mentioned.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, this is the classic 3 to 6, 1 possession game to 1 possession game, as you so note, you know, importantly noted. It's just not a great decision. I suppose that the pushback here is that it's, you know, 7 yards to the first down. I can sort of understand where that is coming from, but you also have to realize that going forward here and picking up the first down, you can set yourself up nicely to just completely ice it away, or you can absolutely, just absolutely clinch it with a touchdown, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think Frank Reich probably did what he thought was the right move here under the circumstances. I think it's tough to beat him up necessarily, even though it winds up as the second worst decision this week. Because it was such a long fourth down. But I think if you're truly trying to maximize your chance of winning the game and only your chance of winning the game, not necessarily the chance that you'll face criticism in post-game, then I think we support going for it here. And the model's able to, I think, pick up on some things that are difficult for humans to get right here. So I think that Frank Reich, even though it's understandable he would make the call that he did, it's still the right thing to do to be going for it here. In a week where we have some familiar faces and some strange faces on certain lists in certain places. We mentioned Sean Payton earlier. Frank Reich is also a coach with a very strong record to this point in his career on making these decisions, but he winds up as number 2 in our worst play calls this week.
Yeah, and going for it there, we mentioned it's 4th and 7, but considering Jacksonville is 27th in overall defense, 32nd against the pass. There's no team worse against the pass, so that just kind of gives you a little bit even more of an advantage there. So seeing Frank Reich come in there at number 2 with a 6.3% pre-snap error, and then number 1 was the Sean Payton decision we talked about, the 4th and goal at the 1, down 11, 5.5 minutes left. Cost them 7.4% in pre-snap win probability. So that will wrap up all of our top 5s. We're going to move into the last segment of the show, our Monday Night Football betting preview. Just want to remind you that you can find all of the top 5s on EdjSports.com and on our EdjSports app. All of these, the rundown of these top 5 with the numbers are available there. So the Monday Night Football game, it's an NFC West showdown to cap the Week 10 action. The Rams had that disappointing loss to the Titans last week. They added Odell Beckham Jr. on Thursday, I believe. It was announced. I don't know if it was official until Friday. On the same day that it was made official on Friday, they lost receiver Robert Woods for the year to a torn ACL. Yeah. So really tough loss there. I mean, it helps to have OBJ. You still always hate to lose and see a guy go down, especially with an ACL. It's going to cost him obviously all of this season and possibly some of next season, or most of the first half of next season as well. So really tough there, but 49ers, are coming in 3-5 on the year. They're 0-4 at home so far. I think they've only won one of their last 6 after starting 2-0. In the market, the Rams are -4. What is the edge fair value on this game for tonight?
Yeah, edge fair value is Rams -2. So we're in disagreement with the market here. It only looks like 2 points, but it's actually a pretty big 2 points because it straddles that 3-point differential, right? So we actually do think that this game would be a play on the side of San Francisco. We like them to keep it closer than maybe the market expects, kind of pivoting over and shifting over to looking at the over-under for this one. The market line now sits at about 49.5, and we think that there's quite a bit of edge to be had here on the over. We like the over. We think a fair value for the over would be, or for the total would be 55. So we definitely like playing that side of things in this matchup. You mentioned Robert Woods going down. Heart obviously breaks for him. That's really a tough injury to suffer at this point in his career and at this point in the season. But you mentioned as well that for one door closing, another one opens with the, I guess, debut of OBJ in a Rams uniform. So it will be very interesting to see how they use him in this matchup. I think, as far as timing goes, for as bad timing as it was to lose Robert Woods, it certainly helps when you have somebody like OBJ to be able to step in to pick up the slack. So,
especially alongside Cooper Kupp and the season he's having, just still a good 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, tearing it up. And so, who knows if they have to work through some things to kind of get him integrated into the offense, OBJ that is, but it will certainly be an interesting one to watch. Because the transaction happened so recently, who knows what they'll be dealing with, whether or not he'll be able to play most of the plays, if he'll have been able to digest the playbook fully, but definitely will be an interesting situation to watch tonight.
I think I saw that it said he may return punts and kicks, whatever, and I imagine they'll have him in. He's got an extra day, so he's probably learned a couple of plays by now. So right. Yeah, be interesting to see, and of course, always brings some excitement to the game whenever he's on the field.
Oh yeah, for sure. shifting over now, looking at where the public money and where the bets are being placed in this game, it is overwhelmingly on the side of the Los Angeles Rams.
Not even close.
Yeah, you can go check out our website, EdjSports.com, on the matchup page here and look at the public money section. It is all yellow being the Rams. 92% of the bets placed on the side of the Rams and 97% of the money in the Rams' favor. So this one is overwhelmingly one-sided for the Rams, which is interesting because our model actually thinks the edge to be had here is on San Fran. So definitely going against the grain this week. We'll see how it turns out. Not too much that I can really glean from the number of bets versus the amount of money placed because they sort of cut against one another. It just kind of seems like, public generally likes to bet the favorite. Rams are definitely a strong team this year. And yeah, I mean, I guess, in general, you would expect the Sharps to be represented by the amount of money, which is 97% backing LA. And yeah, I guess, this is it'll be an interesting week to see how this one plays out because our model disagrees. Yep. So, as I mentioned at the top, we like San Fran's side in this one, and we also like the over.
Yeah, and you mentioned the over there. That's good news for anyone that has their fantasy football matchups coming down to tonight with these two teams. Sometimes Monday you get teams that don't have a lot of fantasy stars, but this one has plenty of them between the Rams and 49ers. So some wins and losses could be made on tonight's games. I'm sure many of them will be.
Funny you mention that because I'm actually one of those people, but I'm not on the side that you think. I'm holding on. I'm clinging to a 4-point lead.
Okay.
So and my opponent has Brandon Ayuk. So yeah, sorry Brandon. I hope tonight's a dud for you, so I can just barely cling on to a victory. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but I'm feeling pretty good in one. I've got up I think like 30 points, 40 points with Cooper Kupp going against someone. I forget who he's got for the 49ers defense and maybe George Kittle, something like that. So
nice brag. I see what you
feeling pretty good there, though. Cooper Kupp, the best really fantasy player in the game so far this year. So made sure to have him, and it's paid off. But that'll do it for this week's show, our Week 10 recap. Thank you all again for joining us this week. Just want to remind you that we are here every Monday, Scott and I, to recap the weekend's action and preview Monday Night Football from a betting perspective. And then on Thursdays, I will be here on the Edge Sports Podcast Network and on YouTube with our betting preview for Thursday Night Football and then the weekend's action through Sunday. Again, please give us some 5-star reviews. Leave some comments. We'll read it on the next show. If you do leave a comment, you can write. Doesn't even have to do doesn't have to be really relate to us or anything. Just give us some thoughts. We'll read them and see what you guys have out there. Just help us grow our audience. We want to get this out to as many people as possible. And then as Scott just mentioned, and I've mentioned a couple times on the show, we've got our new site and our app experience where you can get all of this information on the iOS and Android, and then on the website at EdjSports.com. Again, be on the lookout for our updated coach rankings coming out this Wednesday. I will be here with our first ever Champion Gaming brand ambassador, Katie George, will be with us to update the coach rankings, as well as have some fun segments on there looking at different coaches, coaching decisions, and some matchups coming up for next week. And then last but not least, Football Outsiders, our partners over there, are currently running a special for FO Plus, their premium subscription. It's just 99 cents a week for an annual subscription. So be sure to check them out over at footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. Scott, thanks again for joining me as always. And everyone out there, enjoy the Monday Night Football game, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ian. See you next week.